Let me ask you something that nobody wants to ask. Who the hell are you right now? Not your job title, not your salary, not what you produce in a 60-hour work week. Strip all of that away and who are you? Because I'm going to guess that you don't actually know. And I'm going to guess that that terrifies you. And that's not because you're weak, but because burnout has been quietly dismantling your identity for years and nobody told you it was happening. My name is Tino and I'm a burnout and addiction coach. Before I was a coach, I was a high-performing professional running on cocaine just to keep up. On March 19th, 2024, alone in a hotel room at 5 a.m., I finally stopped lying to myself, and the next day I walked into rehab. And so when I talk about identity collapse, I'm not reading from a textbook, but I'm doing this because I've lived it. And in this video, I'm going to give you 3 things that most burnout coaches are either too scared or too unqualified to give you. The first thing, the real definition of burnout, not the sanitized version, the one that actually explains why you feel the way you do. The second thing, the 3 stages of identity collapse that every burnt out high performer goes through. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what stage you're in right now. And the third thing, the hard truth about why everything you have tried so far has failed. And I mean everything, the therapy, the holidays, the meditation apps, the boundary setting, all of it. I'm going to tell you exactly why none of it has worked and what actually needs to happen instead. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good, because comfortable content does not change lives. So stay with me. Here's what the self-help industry will never tell you. Burnout is not a productivity problem. It's not a time management problem. It's not even a stress problem. Burnout is an identity crisis, full stop. And I want you to really sit with that for a second because it changes everything. Every solution you've ever been given for burnout has been aimed at the surface: sleep routines, mindfulness, work-life balance, delegation. These are not solutions to burnout. They are management tools for exhaustion. And exhaustion is the most visible symptom of something far deeper and far more serious going on underneath. The self-help industry has built a multi-billion-dollar machine on keeping you in a cycle of surface-level fixes. Because if you actually understood what was really happening to you, if you actually addressed the root cause, you would stop buying their courses and their apps and their weekend retreats. I'm not interested in keeping you in that cycle. So let me tell you what's actually going on. Here's how it works. When you're a high performer, your identity fuses with your performance over time, gradually, invisibly. You don't just do your job, you become your job. You are your job. You are the person who delivers, the person who never stops, the person who figures it out no matter what, the one everyone relies on. And for a while, that feels incredible. There is a very real hit in being needed, in being the person in the room that makes everything happen, in being recognized for your output. That hit is real, and it's also the beginning of the trap. Because that identity is conditional, it only exists when you're performing at your peak. It has no foundation outside of your output, which means the moment your performance drops, the moment you are struggling, exhausted, running on empty, then identity starts to crack. And here's the part that nobody talks about. Because your identity is your performance, when performance drops, you don't feel like you're failing at work. You feel like you're failing as a human being, not as an employee, not as a professional, but as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a human being who is supposed to have their life together. Let that land for a second. That feeling, that deep bone level sense that you're fundamentally failing as a person, that is not a symptom of being tired. That is an identity in collapse. And no amount of sleep and fix it, no amount of annual leave will touch it because you cannot rest your way out of an identity crisis. Now, I want to show you exactly how this collapse happens because it does not happen overnight. It happens in 3 distinct stages. And most people are so deep inside the process that they cannot see it happening until they're already at the bottom. By the end of this breakdown, you will know exactly where you are. And that awareness alone is more valuable than anything a generic burnout coach is going to give you. So the first one, stage 1, identity overextension. From the outside, this stage looks identical to success. You're working harder than ever, you're pushing through exhaustion and calling it discipline. You are taking on more and delivering more, and everyone around you is impressed. Your boss thinks you're thriving, your colleagues look up to you, your family sees someone who is crushing it. But here is what's actually happening underneath that performance. There is a quiet terror driving all of it, an anxiety that if you slow down, if you stop, if you're not constantly producing at a high level, the version of you that people respect will disappear, and with it, your entire sense of worth. Rest starts to feel dangerous, not just uncomfortable, but dangerous, because unconsciously, you know that if you stop performing, the identity you have built has nothing left to stand on. So you keep going, you push harder. You say yes when every cell in your body is screaming no. You tell yourself this is strength, this is discipline, this is what successful people do. It is not. It is not. It is the first stage of an identity that is starting to consume itself. Ask yourself honestly right now, does rest feel like a reward to you, or does it feel like a threat? Does slowing down feel peaceful, or does it feel like falling behind? If you cannot sit still without feeling guilty, without reaching for your phone, without the creeping anxiety that you should be doing something, you're in stage 1, and you have been for longer than you think. Now, stage 2, identity fragmentation. This is where the cracks become impossible to ignore, even though most people spend enormous energy trying to ignore them anyway. You are exhausted, but you cannot switch off. Your mind is constantly running, but nothing it is producing is useful. You are showing up to meetings, to family dinners, to conversations, but you're not actually present in any of them. You are performing presence while being completely absent. The work that used to excite you means nothing now. You go through the motions, you deliver because you have to, but the drive is gone. The meaning is gone. And in its place is a flatness that you cannot explain to anyone because from the outside you are still functioning. And here is the part that cuts deepest. The parts of you that exist outside of work, your sense of humor, your curiosity, your ability to be present with the people you love, your joy, they have all gone silent. You cannot remember the last time you felt genuinely light, genuinely yourself, genuinely present in your own life. You have lost yourself, not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly and gradually. In the space between one more late night and one more early morning and one more thing you said yes to when you had nothing left to give. This is identity fragmentation. The coherent sense of self that you once had is breaking apart. And the terrifying thing is that most people at this stage are still functioning well enough that nobody around them even knows how serious it is. You are someone who is still performing on the outside while feeling completely hollow on the inside. Are you smiling at the right moments and saying the right things while privately wondering how much longer you can keep this up? That is stage 2, and it does not get it by itself. Stage 3, the identity collapse. This is the wall. This is where I was on the morning of the 19th of March, 2024. I want to be very specific about this stage. Actually feels like because I think most people who are in it do not have the language for it. And when you do not have the language for something, you cannot address it. You wake up and you do not know who you are without the role, without the performance, without the grind. Strip away the title, the income, the reputation, the routine. There is nothing there. Not emptiness in a poetic sense, but emptiness in a genuinely frightening sense. A void where a person used to be. The title might still be there, the income might still be there, but from the outside, your life might still look like something worth having. But the person living it feels like a stranger to themselves. And this is the stage where people break, where addiction steps in to fill the void, where depression takes hold because the brain cannot sustain the cognitive dissonance of performing a life that feels completely meaningless, where physical health collapses because the body finally stops cooperating with demands the mind has been making for years, where marriages end, where careers implode, where people who everyone thought had it completely together suddenly do not. Not because they are weak. Let me be very clear about that, not because of some character defect or personal failing, but because they built an identity entirely on performance, ran it into the ground, and had nothing underneath to fall back on when it gave out. That was me on March 19th. A version of myself I did not recognize staring back at me in the mirror, and I knew at that moment that if I did not do something completely different, that I was not going to survive this. The next day I walked into rehab. And what I discovered there, and in everything I've done since then, is I had never actually built an identity. I had built a performance. And when the performance ended, I had nothing. Now, here is the truth nobody in the burnout space wants to say out loud. And I mean nobody, because it is bad for business. Most burnout advice is an insult to how serious this actually is. Sleep more, take breaks, practice gratitude, set boundaries, download this app, do this breathing exercise, take this course. That is advice for someone who is tired. It is not advice for someone who is in an identity collapse. It is not advice for someone who has lost the fundamental sense of who they are. It is the equivalent of putting a Band-Aid a bandage on a broken leg and telling someone to walk it off. And the reason this industry keeps selling you these surface level fixes is because the surface level fixes are easy to package, easy to sell. They create enough temporary relief that you think something is working, right up until you crash again 6 months later and buy the next thing. I've watched incredible, capable people cycle through this for years. Recover partially, function for a while, crash again, buy more solutions, recover partially, crash again, because they never address the actual problem. You cannot rest your way back to yourself. You cannot meditate your way back. You cannot take enough holidays or read enough books or do enough journaling or attend enough retreats. The only way back is a complete identity rebuild from the inside out. Going back to the foundation, understanding who you actually are beneath your performance, rebuilding your sense of self on something that does not collapse the moment your output drops. That's the work. It is not comfortable, it is not quick, and it is not something that a weekend workshop or a mindfulness app is equipped to take you through. But it is the only thing that actually works. And it is exactly what I do with my clients inside the Break Free experience. In the next video, I'm going to show you how addiction fits into this story, because for a lot of high performers, burnout and addiction are not two separate problems with separate solutions. They are the same story, the same identity collapse expressed in different ways. And understanding that connection completely changes how you approach recovery. If this video has already hit something real for you, drop a comment right now and tell me what stage you're in. Stage 1, 2, or 3. I read every single comment and I'll respond to as many as I can. If you're done waiting and you're actually ready to do this and do the work, the Break Free Experience booking link is in the description below. 6 weeks, real work, a real identity rebuild, not a band-aid, and I'll see you in the next video.